And we are live. Right, hey guys. Let me just check I've got microphone on. It's showing us on. I don't think I'm muted. That's my usual trick these days. Yeah, I'm all plugged in, I think. Right, let's know in the chat if you can see and hear us. And welcome to our regular Tuesday show. This is the Tat Chat on my channel this week. It alternates now between our channels from myself to Zahir. So how are you, Zahir? You all right?
Yeah, I'm really good. Feeling okay, I suppose. Ooh, let me just mute that. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, hi there. Just yeah, happy to be in the chat.
Good stuff. We've got lots of people that have popped in. Let me just.
Oh gosh.
I'll just open that on the side.
Yeah, I was just trying to open. I was just figuring out how to work the computer. I'd forgotten. Like when you just go blank. I was like, okay, there we go. All right.
Chelsea was first in today. Hey Chelsea. And then we've got Bumcrack Picker, Gary Tactical Bite, 95472 Pickers, Paul Mosley, Gary's in there, Lucy, Jason, Electronic Firing Squad is in there.
So fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, he's nice.
Andrew K, lots and lots of people. So welcome aboard. We do have a loose sort of topic. We thought we'd talk a little bit about our listing processes and how that's evolved over the years maybe, and how we tend to do things, and then that age-old thing of how to keep yourself motivated and tricks and tips we try to employ to motivate ourselves to list, whether they work or not.
Yeah.
Because I know we both struggle in some senses to knuckle down to listing.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I'm definitely feeling a little bit down. I think I'm trying to motivate myself because I'm just trying to keep the listings going, because as we mentioned on the Friday chinwag with me and Beck, we have had absolutely just terrible eBay sales, and I was talking to you about it earlier today as well. And sometimes there's no particular rhyme or reason, because I like to think that when you do have down days, it's important to remember that if you've proven in the past that you're doing this okay, and you're earning an income from it, and you're selling fine, you're bringing in good figures, and overall your business is growing, in the beginning especially. I mean, obviously growth might plateau at some point, but in the beginning few years, as long as your business is growing year on year, sales are going up year on year, which in our case it is. It's important to remember that overall you're doing fine, and you might still get patches, especially early on, where you have like your 0 sales days, or your £200 in 7 days worth of turnover, and it's hard to be motivated at that point, but you need to be.
Yeah, I mean, in some way, do your slumps not motivate you to work more? Is it counterproductive in that way? Does it?
It really depends, I suppose, in which way I first approach it, because it can go either way. I mean, sometimes it can just put you in a down or even further. So because you see the sales and you're like, oh, it's just, then it becomes hard to keep working. But if you approach it initially in the right way, so in the past I've had times where I've had bad sales and it's affected how much I've worked. But since then I have actually changed my mindset to that. So now if I get times like this, I don't let it get to me, and I still get on and work. And I've actually had a pretty productive week when I think about it. Whether that's on Amazon or whether that's on eBay, just getting work done, getting shipments sent off, sorting through old backlogs of stock, bundling items. So it's
The thing is, I think with this game, when we talked earlier, there is no rhyme nor reason, because as I said to you, Andrew and I were away half of last week. In fact, more than half of last week. Didn't really put the hours in, yet had a pretty damn good week of sales. And Andrea had a really good weekend on her stall and sold more items than me, which is a first. She's still to bits about that. But neither of us really listed. And I think that the point is, with listing, it's like paying it forward. Not necessarily do you get that instant influx of money, but once you put the work in, that money's paid forward and you're going to see it at some point, is how I kind of look at it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you do have. It's very much a case of that about looking at the long run and, like you said, feeding the beast, as people say, isn't it?
Definitely. I was just looking in the chat. There's a few comments coming in. Electronic Firing Squad says he's up to his nose in Polaroids, cassette and CD Walkman, and retro video games. Mega haul this weekend.
Sounds fantastic. Sounds exactly the kind of things that I'd love to be selling as well.
Peter says, "Hi peeps, popped in after a work day out at Bockett's farm with the kids, and now listen to Enter Shikari's new song. Happy days." We've just had a super chat in. I can't see who that's from. I need to scroll down. I'm way behind.
Yeah, I need to
get. That's Electronic Firing Squad himself. It says $5, a donation to the Home for Orphaned Furbies. I don't know if any are in shot today. There's one hiding up there. Yeah, well, thanks for that. Lovely little Furbies.
Just going on from the sales talk, like low sales, I think it's also important to keep focused on stuff that's going to make you money. So, I've been feeling a bit down with the eBay, so I've been working on the Amazon and getting some more listings done, just so I know that I'm doing the right thing. So getting stuff bundled that I've had for ages, so now it's ready to list, and obviously putting listings up. But the alternative is you could end up, and I nearly did this, is you go on to like the eBay boards or something, and then you start reading about what the current problems are, and you're like, that's like a rabbit hole that you could just get lost down, because I honestly don't think it matters what time of year or what month you go onto certain message boards and forums. I think you'd see the exact same topics, just like you'll see, has it been the worst July ever, or has it been a slow July? I'm sure then there'll be one for August, September, October.
There is. I reckon there is a thread everywhere for it's the worst January, it's the worst February, because it will be somebody's
for someone, yeah.
January, February. But if you look hard enough, you'll find somebody that's saying eBay is amazing. I've just done the best figures I've ever done. And I think that's how you have to kind of look at it. Find someone that's doing well and say, okay, so eBay isn't broken. It's just that it's not going well for me at the moment, or whatever it may be. But yeah, it is hard to stay positive, and we always come back to that, but it is a constant battle. I wanted to touch on one thing that I tried recently. I said a week or so back that I wrote down. I went through all my stock here, and I found the 10 things that have sat around and I have avoided, be it because they were awkward, because there's something needed to be done to make it listable. And I wrote down those 10 things, and I said, I have to list these 10 things before I move on and do other stuff. And because I had them physically written in a list, it's been really, really helpful. And I'm on the last thing, which is all this Sylvanian Families gear, which I spent most of the afternoon photographing, researching, and listing. Well, I haven't listed it yet. That's going to happen after the show, hopefully. But that's really, really helped. And this morning I listed that bike. That bike has sat in the office, at the back of the office, since I picked it up, because it had 2 flat tires. And that meant I had to either fix punches or just pump them up if they'd just gone flat over time. And it was as simple as I had to dig out my bike pump from somewhere. So because I had to do that little step, it's just waiting. It's like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, because I can't be asked to hunt through our cupboards of crap to find the pump. So I did that, pumped them up. They were both fine. I went out on a bike ride on it, and it was absolutely fine. They've stayed pumped up, and I've listed it. And now I've listed it really high. It's on at 350, which is, really hopeful. But it should be an easy 200, hopefully. And that has just sat there. And it's ridiculous that because of that 10, 20 minutes extra work I had to do, it sat there. But because I wrote it in this list and I forced myself to work systematically through the list, it got done. And I'm going to use that technique more. List the awkward things first, because I've never done that.
That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, I mean, it's that whole swallow that frog type thing, isn't it? Just get the most difficult things done, because you're right. Sometimes things can just sit there when they've got that. You are always going to end up listing the item that's literally ready to be photographed. I think sometimes there's so many little steps that you have to take, and it could just be down to your experience. So for example, you might have gone to the boot sale and picked up a bunch of items, and you'll automatically gravitate to items that you know off the top of your head what the value is. You don't have to worry about how you're going to list it because you've listed something like it or the same thing before. So you know the keywords, you know everything. Because actually, when you break down what goes into a listing, it can be a fair bit, especially when you then go to list something that you're not familiar with. And because just learning the right lingo to attract the right buyers, in itself is time consuming, isn't it? And so
I think a lot of it comes down to confidence. So that may be what you're sort of alluding to. I know if I get a load of stuff and I've sold one of those before and I've sold some of these before, in my head, I know I can sell it and I know I can sell it easily and I've done it before. So I'll do it again. And that slight bit of hesitation isn't there. Whereas things like these Sylvanian families, it's not something I'm that comfortable with. But once I actually broke it down to the process of bit of research, bit of breaking it down into bundles and photographing it, it wasn't difficult. And the thought of listing stuff is way worse than it actually is. Like that mountain bike, by the time I'd actually pumped the tires up, it was like 12 pictures and then a very easy description, to be honest, and it was done. And I was like, why have I had that sat there? It's ridiculous. It was just the thought of it. And because listing bikes is something I don't tend to do, it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't in my comfort zone, and I just had to force myself to just get on with it. And
I think that's the most, I think I can completely that resonates with me, that feeling. Once you've done a bunch of listing of an item that's been sat there or something that's been sat there, you do sit back and you think, why, like you said, why did I leave it so long? It's frustrating because then you've burnt through it all and it's not a big deal anymore.
And it's so listing is motivating for me as well. If I get a load of listings done, particularly if it's things that I was putting off or I thought may be complicated, if I list a load of those, I'm so pumped up and I'm so motivated to do more. It's sometimes like you just have to make that start. That's always the problem with me. I'm not a morning person, as you know, getting going. And it's the same with listing. Once I get into my stride, I'm off and I just keep going. So yeah, it's interesting. Let me just dip in the chat and catch up and see what the chat is. People are saying we're loud and clear. Yep, coming through clear. That's all good. Oh, Power Reselling has just sent a message. Well, probably 5 minutes ago. I'm behind. Just been picking in a garage of someone who was evicted from their house. After 7 hours of rummaging, I'm now sat in my room with 8 bin bags and 2 boxes of tats. Well, hopefully it's not so overwhelming that it all gets left in the corner, because I'm guilty of that. But yeah, interesting pick.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to be careful with that as well. Like, when you bring home a bunch of stuff, how where you dump it all or where it all is, because it can just, if you have it all out there and it's all just spread out, it can become very you can become like, where do I start, and then not start.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword though, because if you pack it away neatly in boxes and like in my case, put it in the loft, it stays there because you then move on to the stuff that's readily available. So in a way, I think keeping it out and starting on it straight away is perhaps the better way to go. But then if we did that with everything, it would get overwhelmed. So it's a constant battle of where do we start and what do we start on next. And
I think you almost need some kind of a factory assembly line view of things.
Yeah.
The way I see it is that you've got to have somewhere where all this stuff gets stored and out of sight, or like neatly stacked away, put away. And then you've got to have a process where you are bringing in regularly certain amounts, just enough that it's there for you, so you've got all this to work on. Yeah. And then it needs to get processed and then moved on so you can bring in another bunch of stuff. And it's even something like that. I mean, this is something that Rebecca's been fighting with at the moment. She sometimes feels she does a fair bit of prep work, partly because of her OCD tendencies, I think, where she feels if she notices even the smallest mark on an item of clothing, she's going to feel like it has to go through the wash. And we've talked about it, like, is it worth it or not? And it's something that she's thinking about. But she has to do that, and so she has a lot of prep work, and then ironing the clothes, and then there's the photographing, and then sometimes some things need a little repair or whatever, and there's so much work that goes in, and sometimes she'll do like a day's solid work but then feel like she's not done anything because she's not actually listed anything.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the hardest things, I think, when you have to spend time preparing stuff.
It's funny because Andrea is very similar. Andrea and Beck'd have a great chat if they do a hangout.
Yeah.
I mean, Andrea has a backlog of ironing because ironing is nobody's favorite chore. Let's just face it. And there's a big backlog of stuff that if you tried to photograph it in the condition it's in, it would just look crap. But 5 minutes of ironing a shirt or whatever, and then it's super saleable. So you almost have to put that work in, but it gets put on the ironing pile. And when the ironing pile gets to a kind of critical level, you just don't want to look at it. You know what I mean? And then there's, like you say, a pile of things that need slight repair, pile of things that need stains removing. And it's just like, and then suddenly you're in that overwhelmed point where you don't want to look at it, you don't want to tackle it.
Thing is, these are such these are such simple things, but I think these are on a lot of people's minds. You speak to other resellers as well, you find that you're not alone in feeling like this. So it's always nice to actually get this out there and talk about it. I mean, this chat is cathartic for me at the moment because of my poor sales, and it's just motivational as well because of that. And it's always good to be able to actually talk about how these small little things mentally can have such a big impact. And like you said, it's something as little as having these piles. It just feels like you're doing a lot of work, but because until the item is listed and active on eBay, you feel like you've not achieved anything. And I think that's a really hard part of eBay. And I notice some people say they take bunches of photos in one go as well. So they have stacks of items ready. Again, that can be great, but again, like, do you feel after taking a day's worth of photos, are you satisfied with what you've done, or do you think, I really should have listed a few of those items as well today? I'm completely knackered because I've spent all day snapping.
It's that constant mental battle. But going back to what you were saying, I think it is really important that we come on and we're just open and honest about how difficult this can be in many ways, even for people that are long in the tooth like me. I said, I think a couple of weeks ago on the Tat Chat, I was just overwhelmed, and I do get like that. And I think Lisa said recently that it looks like I've done some work and I've created some space. Well, it's not too bad, but I am trying to get all of this organized, and how I want it is so I've got a bay where all my electronics go, a bay where all my books go, a bay where all the FBA stuff goes, so everything kind of has a home, because it's just chaos. And I did a video that'll probably be up tomorrow where I just shared what I was doing today. And when I was digging out all the Sylvanian families, because I wanted to do all of those at the same time, it made sense. I can make up bundles, I can figure out exactly what I've got, split it up into bundles and list it all in one hit. Makes sense. Whilst digging through looking for this, I found another massive crate of match attacks, another 10 kilos worth. And I thought I'd done all of those. So it's now like, oh my God. So I've had to start again. I've got piles here right now of these bloody cards that, to be honest, most aren't even worth the time of day. But it's just, if I was more organized, they would have all been on the right shelf all together, and I'd have done the lot as one big bundle. Now I've got to start again with another bundle, and it's just little things like that frustrate the hell out of me. But that's my own lack of organization, and I've always been like that. I don't know if I can definitely change.
It's difficult. I mean, Indie Chicks also made a really good point in the chat, saying that she has a time frame of interest. So once she buys something and gets bored of it, she gets bored of it if she leaves it for more than a week. So she needs to get it listed whilst the buying high is still there. That's actually a good point. Some people will be like that, where they'll you'll be excited about an item. And I think that happened with me with that craft stuff I bought. I was really excited about it. But I didn't do anything about it because there was so much of it, and then it ended up sitting in boxes for ages. And I've only just started to get around to now force myself to.
I think that's a good one. If you can kind of strike while the iron's hot. I know some people who come back from the boot sale and take a load of photos straight away, and then it's kind of fresh in their mind, and it gets the ball rolling. The other problem, like you said, when you got that big haul of craft stuff, once it gets put down in a corner, only takes 2 or 3 days and it kind of blends in. doesn't it? It becomes part of the furniture, and I'm so guilty of that. There's stuff in here that I've just dumped, and it's sat there, and I just walk around it. You know what I mean?
And then you pile more stuff on top of
Yeah,
it as well. Like,
yeah. And then I lose stuff, and then I can't see it, and it's like it doesn't exist. So yeah, we're all guilty of that to varied degrees, I think.
You've had a super chat from Lonnie, Garage Flips.
Oh, I missed it. Let me try and find it. Oh yeah, Lonnie, $2. Thanks, mate. You guys have motivated me to list now. Well, there you go. Okay, if we can help motivate someone, our work is done.
Exactly.
I saw a comment that made me want to talk about another motivational thing. Let me find who it was. Oh, there's so much chat, I'm not gonna find it now. Oh God, it's miles back. Somebody was saying that they try and list a certain amount of monetary value. Somebody was saying they try and list, I think it was 10 items of at least £10 a day, so that you've got a kind of rough monetary figure. And in the past, I've tried that system where I don't aim to get 10, 20, 30 things listed. I aim for 100, £200 in monetary value. So if that means I only do one listing, or two big bundles of Sylvanian families, for example, that could take you all day if you're going to go to the lengths of cleaning everything, setting up all the bundles, doing loads of research, that could take you all day. But if it's £200 worth, you've still hit that limit, whatever your target is. Even if it's only £50 worth of stock a day, that could be one item, it could be 10 items.
But I'd feel like that's cheating as well. You know, I'd feel like, because you could do that. Definitely, you're right. You could list something that's super valuable, and I'd feel that's, I don't know.
I mean, you have to stop once you've done that one. You can carry on.
You could, but I think the way I work though, I'd be like, if I set myself a monetary target, I would be one of those people that would probably be like, "Yep, that's me done now. I can chill out." And so. Yeah. You have to work on what works for you, though, definitely.
Doing it yourself lifestyle. I know I'm behind on the chat still. Said, I missed that DVD stack in the backgrounds are here. Bring it back.
Oh, yeah. I used to have so much stuff.
All of those, didn't you?
Yeah, I've cleared all of those. That's all gone. Joe's in the chat, actually. Joe's reselling for pennies. And he says, never ironed an item of clothing. And it would have to be, from a time frame perspective, I think I saw, if it's stained or dirty or needs washing, it needs to be a £25 plus item to value the time. And I would tend to agree with that. It makes sense, but it's a difficult one because it's not always about just like what makes sense to you, because sometimes it will just bother people. I know for a fact, like, Rebecca knows that it probably isn't worth it in some cases, but she just feels the need that she has to do it, and she's got so much washing running a lot of the times that it's like, well, it's not going to make any difference, just chuck it in. But I do know what you mean with that comment.
I've had a similar conversation with Andrea about, is it worth the time to put this much effort into something that's only going to be a £10-15 sale?
Yeah.
But then you get into the conversation, well, I've got it now. I own this item now. What else am I going to do with it? Give it back to charity. Yeah. And I kind of get that. So it's then about learning and moving on and only buying X and Y in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, clothing's its own beast though, isn't it, as well? I mean, unless you're buying like the high end stuff, even the low end stuff is so competitive, isn't it? Even like the £10 items are so competitive. If you're going on and saying you've got like a top shop top for a tenner, but it's got a gravy stain down it, you're going to struggle, because there's probably going to be about 500 other top shop tops for a tenner with no gravy stains. So you may, even though it's only a £10 item, if you're doing washing anyway, it may well be worth just chucking it in there.
Indeed. I've just noticed there's a few messages from Kirsten. She says that her online sales are really poor and she's trying to stay positive, but then goes on to say she's been concentrating on other things. And when you chatted to Kirsten, it was very evident that she has a lot of fingers in a lot of pies, and something has to give. And we've discussed this in the past. My eBay is very up and down because I concentrate on other things in between. And you can only give so much attention to one thing at a time. And that's frustrating frustrating at the same time as well, because you see sales dipping on one platform as you concentrate on the other.
I think I found that with Amazon, because I've never really done Amazon like properly before. As in on a more consistent basis. I've definitely found, whether it's because you're sourcing for it or whether you're actually doing boxes to send up, etc., it can take you away from, like you said, it can be difficult to then be like, okay, I've done this, now I'll move on to eBay. I know I should, but it can be difficult to get out of that momentum, I suppose, of doing one platform over the other. It's something I need to like train myself to be able to do better.
Yeah. There was a question, for me, doing it yourself lifestyle. Question for Nick: How big is your office there, from front to back and side to side? I'm looking at getting something similar built. Well, this was our garage. It's the full length of the house, so it's kind of a double length garage. I don't know how many feet that is, like 40 or something, and then width it's about 12 or so foot. So yeah, really nice size actually, and it works really well. But this was already here. We didn't have this purpose built. This was already attached to the side of the house. It was put on in the 1970s. We just had it converted to interior space, had the floor raised and a new roof put on. And then the front, where the up and over door was, we had bricked up, then a great big window put in, and a door knocked through to the house. So that's what we did. So yeah, and it works really well. It's just a complete mess all the time. Indie Chick says she loves Sylvanian. I found a pic of an actual house which had been built as an exact replica of the house on the hill, my dream home. Oh, wow. I was actually working, just before we went live, I'm working on a blog post just showing all the pictures that I've done today. Well, not all of them, but some, to show you how I've broken it down into bundles. There's a link below to our blog, actually. The post I'm working on will be on there a bit later on tonight if you want to go and check that.
Pete's Retro Collectibles, further down the chat, says, I have my photo bay directly behind my desk now. Literally turn the chair around and take pics, then list immediately. And that's actually part of the reason that I put my computer back out here now, so that I'm near the work, as it were. So because it used to be inside, and I think there were too many distractions there.
Yeah. Mine's there where the lights are, so it's not too far of a walk. I was talking about photographs. I tend to, if I'm doing small stuff, I'll tend to pick a batch of 10 similar items if I can, photograph them all at once, and then have them sat here and work through them and then go on to the next batch. Recently, with this list of 10 really awkward items, I've been concentrating on one thing at a time, and it depends how complicated it is. And with these, I'm doing the pictures for one item at a time and then listing it, because there's so much more in depth to think about. And I feel I get overwhelmed if I've got too much in my head. So like with this stuff, I've just finished photographing this and now it's fresh in my mind what I'm going to say, how I'm going to describe it, what's included. I'll get on and do it.
I think you've touched on quite an important point there as well, Nick, because we look at, you can class all your inventory as TAT. And, it's just like one thing, your inventory is one thing. And sometimes it's easy to think that, listing is just listing. 10 items should only take, a certain amount of time. But it really is a movable feast. If you only, for example, if you were to just only focus on media and games, you'd probably be listing, 10, 20, 30 times as much a day as you currently do with all your general stuff, because you're putting roadblocks in your way, aren't you, in a way, because you're coming across things. And I'm the same. I'm buying anything that I feel will make a profit, and that means that very often I'm listing things for the very first time. Yeah. And I'm learning about things. So for example, whether that's like listing that spotting scope or listing an RC car, like learning all those different things to talk about, and that can slow you down so much. So you're right.
It can be very stop-start, for sure, because you have to stop and do your bit of research and find out all those details that are key to selling something and getting the most out of it. And that can be frustrating if an hour later you're still working on that one item. But longer down the road, next time you pick one up, your brain's already there with half all that information. And I was watching a video with Chad, actually, and his wife was saying about...
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, he can spend a whole day researching a new niche and only list a handful of bits. and you know, Kim would get frustrated with that, but she appreciates that he's really knuckling down and learning some really important information that will go with him. So when he's out, he knows what to pick up, he knows how much to spend on it, he knows what are the good, I don't know, Cub Scout badges, for example, he had a while back, and he researches the hell out of a subject whilst he's listing it, and that can make the process really long-winded, but again, you're filling your brain with that information, hopefully, so paying it forward again.
Yeah, and how exactly, and it comes down to, again, how invested you are in this. I mean, you know, what kind of a person you want to be when you're out there sourcing. You know, do you? And I think when you've got that thirst for knowledge, I suppose it's only going to be a good thing when you're out and about, because if you've got that knowledge on tap without needing a smartphone, you're just going to be that much quicker, and you're going to be able to see things, you know, that much quicker and act on them. So it could actually help out in the future as well. So yeah. I'm really I think that's a really good thing. It's like a balance, isn't it, of, do I just do the bare minimum, or do I go deep into this? And because you can end up sometimes researching other items that aren't even your item but are in the same niche.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because I've got this one. Yeah, like for example, with the spotting scopes, the one I had, I found out was an entry-level model. And then you end up researching other models because you notice that those can go for 300 quid or 400 quid. What's the difference? Oh, okay, I've noticed that, you know, this is what's going to make it different, or this, you know, the application it's used for, or what the brands are to look out for. And
yeah, but how important is that? Because now, you know, if you see one of those advertised on Facebook for £100 right now, or before you'd found that one, you'd have gone, yeah, whatever. Yeah. Now, if you have the presence of mind to think that's a £300 scope, you're going to buy it.
Yeah.
And that's an extra, you know, really tasty flip that you've managed to find because of that research. So it does work. I just wanted to say hi to Joe. My pack rat is in there. The other Joe from America. He says, howdy UK, howdy US.
Have you seen you've had another super chat?
Oh God, I'm miles behind the chat. Sorry, guys. Oh my God, I'm scrolling and scrolling.
Yeah.
I still can't see it.
I'm way down.
I found it. Subbers Collectibles UK has super chatted £2. Thanks for all the motivation. Need it right now. Well, hopefully, you know, us two waffling about motivation will motivate you in some way. Kirsten had a good point actually a minute ago. Yeah, Kirsten was just saying that she's struggling right now because the kids are home. And that's something that a lot of people right now will be battling with. It's kind of, and I know you do and we do, because you've got your kids at home and they're moping around, and we want to be out there doing fun stuff. And part of the reason we do this in the way we do is so we have that freedom.
Yeah.
So it's also training my mind to say, sod it, Nick, down tools and just go out. So yeah, that's a constant battle. Is
definitely, because your initial reaction is always like, oh, but you know, if I was working, I'd still be working now. You know, if I had a job, I'd still be at work right now, and the kids would be at home bored anyway, so I should just get on and work. But like you said, it would be a shame for you to give up this time, because you're one of the minority of parents that would have, you know, time with their kid during the summer holidays, because most people will, you know, after they've taken their holiday or whatever abroad, will be back at work. I mean, today I took the girls out this morning, you know, went to like our local ice cream parlor and got there nice and early. It was like dead quiet. That's where I sent the llama photo from. So
is that the place we were gonna go?
Yeah. We didn't go. So, you know, and it's just cool to be able to do little things like that. You know, it's only small, but it breaks up the day for the kids as well, and you know, it's a little something.
Yeah, I have to remember a lot of the reasons why I'm doing this. The whole freedom that comes with it, you still have to take advantage of that, and that kind of, it contradicts the whole motivating yourself part of it. 'Cause it's like, motivate yourself, I'm going to get X and Y done today, and then you get into that headspace, I've got to work. And that is really key, and it's really important to being self-employed. But the other side is, we're doing this for other reasons, and you have to get that balance. And I've never cracked that. I really haven't. It's not easy at all.
As a question in chat from Ryan Brown, he asks, if you get a sale late on Friday, do you mark it as dispatch right away, even though you can't dispatch until Monday, because it's good for your feedback scores? I mean, do you, or is it? I mean,
I tend to print, when I print out the order like this, which is still how I do it, I mark them as dispatched then, and then it will go Monday, because you get the weekend kind of taken out of your dispatch time anyway, don't you?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
When mine get dispatched as soon as I've like packaged them, because when I buy online through Hermes or Parcel to Go or now Shuttle, when you buy your online postage, I think it automatically gives you the option to mark things as dispatched anyway, and it takes it off and it uploads the tracking as well.
Okay.
Joe, my pack rat says one can spend so much time researching, not so much a particular item, but all the tangents the item sends you on. Guilty. And I'm guessing that happens a lot to Joe, especially with the kind of items that he picks up. Like the more peculiar and weird the item as well, the more the chances are that you're going to be sent down a rabbit hole when you're researching it as well.
Yeah, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating to find out who's selling what sells, what doesn't, the prices people have got. I'm always fascinated by the difference in price of the same damn item. You know what I mean? When you're looking something up and it's like this one sold for 20, that one sold for 3.99. What? Hello. And then I get sucked into why? And sometimes there's just no logic. And yeah, that I find that endlessly fascinating. Fabian King had a question there. Do you think people deliberately target eBay because of how easy it is? If you mean scammers targeting eBay, then yeah. I mean, that's for a different chat, but yeah. And I assume that's what you mean in there.
Yeah.
Okay, let me scroll down and catch up, see if I've missed any questions. Oh, Lisa's had an update. For those of you concerned for my dad who has cancer, we saw the consultant and they will remove the tumor along with a lot of his lower jaw and replace with a metal plate.
Oh, wow.
Good Lord. Well, best of luck. Crumbs.
That is pretty heavy, isn't it?
Um,
and things like that can put slow sales and things into perspective. I really do think it's so important to keep perspective in what we all do as well, and I think that's definitely something to think about. Everything's got its place, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's another benefit of the way we live our lives and the way we run our businesses, that we can drop things and go and be there when somebody needs us, which isn't always easy with a job. I know most jobs will give you time out for that, but it's limited. And we can down tools and go, as long as we've got a little bit of money in the bank, perhaps to see us through. We've got the flexibility to react to situations like that. Kirsten's just saying there, I'd love an office. I have to work in my kitchen, which is difficult at times. God, I can imagine. Yeah, and having a tidy workspace is so good for motivation, and I do know that, which is what I'm battling with right now. And I'm doing okay. It may not look like it, but I am winning this battle right now.
it definitely makes a difference, and it's a constant thing to have to do as well. I think it's you can't just do it once every now and then. I mean, it's pretty constant when you're, especially when you're packaging in that area and you're shipping items out or cleaning items, and everything's happening in that spot. There's bound to be a constant mess.
Yes, I'm thinking of putting some more storage up on the walls so I can have everything to hand, because I'm terrible for losing stuff. When you lose your tape dispenser and you've then lost 5 or 10 minutes just trying to find your tape.
Yeah,
that is me all over. So I'm going to start like having an extra shelf here and some more in the corner for packaging, so everything's just to hand, which was what the plan was originally, but I filled it up with crap. So yeah, that needs work. Lisa said as well that she wanted to thank everyone for the support and she appreciates it. So yeah, no problem at all. Okay, let me scroll down a bit. Okay. Oh, I'm way behind. Karen Fisher says, question, can you both say hi as it's my first time on the chat. Hi there.
Hi, Karen.
I'll put it in the chat as well. I always forget I can actually write in the chat while I'm live as well. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can do that.
The option is there. She says she makes, if it's Karen Fisher, she goes, I make dust covers for games consoles. So I do that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and try to list on Tuesday and Thursday. So it's tricky to keep motivated. Interesting.
What was that? Dust covers?
For games consoles, yeah. eBay seller name is Kazi Fisher. I have about 20 designs listed, she says. So
that's a cool little niche idea, isn't it?
Oh wow, she sold over 2,500 made from 100% cotton on my sewing machine. That is pretty cool, yeah.
That's a clever little idea. I love things like that. Wow.
Mike Warren says hello from California.
Hi there. Question for me, Nick, have you ever had a storage unit to store your eBay items? Yes, we worked from a storage unit, you could call it, which was an office with a big storage area. That's just before we started doing YouTube. In fact, my first handful of YouTube videos were from that place. That was when we were doing clothing, but I couldn't hack just doing clothing, so I started doing all of this stuff as well. But yeah, we did.
A storage unit it's so attractive, but it's another cost. And you know, if you can do it from home without it encroaching, I think that's what we're trying to do at the moment. So, and it seems to be working okay. But a storage unit could be a real help, actually, if you can get one cheap enough.
Yeah, I think going back to motivation, it does depend on what your motivation is. If your motivation is to build a business and expand, you're always going to have to get to that point where it goes outside the house. You know, this works for us now. And although we struggle a little bit with space, that's more to do with how much we bring in and how quickly it's going out again, rather than the amount of space I've got. I think this is an ideal space for what I'm trying to do here. I just need to manage it a bit better. But we don't have big ideas now of expand. We're trying to keep it contained, really, and we're happy with that. But if you're, you know, thinking way bigger, you're going to have to look into storage and staff and all of those things at some point.
Or even if it's, I suppose, even if you were to do it on a small scale, say, you know, just to have like a small storage unit, it could just be down to the fact that having your house clear and getting your house back from all the stuff around you could possibly make you more productive, because then you'd have a specific place where you could have your stock and inventory neatly organized and set out. And it would be like going to a workplace when you're going to pick up your orders and you know, things like that. So it could add that dimension. So even if it wasn't necessarily for expansion, even if it was just a different way of doing things, if you were finding that you were struggling having it around you,
like a big garden office shed. I've seen some amazing ones.
Yeah, things like that. Exactly.
Yeah. Darren Smart Reselling's in. He says, question, Nick, can we get a big red nose update? If you don't know what that is, I went on a road trip a few months back, to buy this massive, like 5 foot wide red nose that hung on a building. I think it was from 1993 or something. The update on that is it's sat in a shed. Talking of sheds, it's sat in my garden shed. And I will list that on the next Red Nose Day. Trouble with that is they're every 2 years, and we've only just had the other one in March. So that's going to sit in the shed for a while. So yeah, that's a bit of a long tail item. Peter Ray, great t-shirt. Nick the man with 1,000 t-shirts. Yeah, I like this one. This is Clyde. Because believe it or not, the ghosts from Pac-Man all have a name. There's Inky, Blinky, Stinky, and Clyde, is it? No, Pinky.
I didn't know that.
Inky, Blinky, Pinky, and Clyde, I think. And the orange one is Clyde.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Pub quiz knowledge, that is. Okay. Swamp Picker's in there. Hi, Swamp. Peace of mind, too much clutter. Yeah, it can overwhelm you. And that, like I said, that's where I was a couple of weeks ago. Was that me ka-chinging?
It was, yeah.
Oh, Andrea sold some more shoes. Andrea was so chuffed that she outsold me at the weekend. I was so happy for her as well. Oh, Joe, my pet rat saying new episode. Well, half of one anyway is posted today. I saw a notification come up, and that's on my list to watch, Joe. Peter Ray, question for Nick and Z. Have you ever sold an item to someone? Oh, been paid. Have you ever sold an item to someone famous, very famous? Ever sold an item to someone in the same road or very near without realizing? The only famous person, I've shared this before, was the guy out of Spandau Ballet, Kemp, Martin Kemp, who was in EastEnders. We sold him a Spandau Ballet DVD, a live DVD, which was when they just reformed to go on tour again. So we think he was just wanting to watch himself on stage and bring back the glory days or something before he went on tour. I have sold things to people literally around the corner and then just walked around there and given it to them. Have you sold any local stuff, Lee?
Not that local. Not that local.
What about famous people?
I don't think so. I don't think so. No. I don't believe so. None of those things have happened for me yet.
Cool. Okay. What's the most efficient way to store folded clothing? There's a question coming. Andrea at the moment is hanging it all on rails, actually. And then as the sale comes in, she'll take it down, fold it and pack it. We used to store everything in poly bags ready to go with a Sharpie written on reference number. So as it's sold, we just pick the bag and ship it out. What does Beck do with all her clothing once listed?
In boxes folded. She does want to actually put them in like she likes to put clear bags on them, so she's planning on just clear bagging them and then squeezing the air out and stick them in boxes, because we've got these quite deep storage boxes, so you can fit quite a bit in there. And then coats and things have taken over my cupboard, her cupboard.
How's it going with the with that big haul? If people don't know, just briefly fill us in on what happened with those clothes.
Oh gosh, the house clearance. We for those that don't know, we found a house clearance on the way to dropping off some parcels, and we filled the car up with all the clothes in the house. As far as I'm aware, she started working on them now. I just can't tell. There's so many everywhere. It's difficult. But she started working on them, but in small bunches. But there's a lot to go through, to be honest. I think that most of them are like upstairs now in the small bedroom. So, and we still haven't even gone through. She's only just started going through the scarves that she picked up.
Oh yeah,
that bag of scarves as well. That's the thing. It can just build up and. She started going through those now, though, so hopefully she'll start getting some of those listed as well. So,
some comments about how people store stuff. I store in clear poly bags, says Brooke, then go into grey poly bags when ordered. So similar to how you're doing it currently, I guess. Garage Flips Lonnie asks me, Nick, why did you stop bagging the clothes? I honestly can't remember. Clothes is Andrea's thing, and she wears the trousers in that department, so you'd have to ask her. I think she just finds it more convenient having it all railed up. And the other thing is, it's probably more to do with, we get a lot of questions about detailing on clothes or a specific length or size, and if something's just on a rail, you can pick it off and measure it. It's a whole lot easier than rummaging through piles of numbered bags. So it might be to do with that, but yeah, you'd have to ask her on that. Vacuum packs are great for space saving.
Yeah, that would be.
Oh, Krillin's just super chatted $5. Thanks, mate. And he asks how the world has changed so much since the 90s. If you were able to name the Pac-Man ghosts, you were never getting laid. Well, it worked out okay for me.
I think that's quite a cool bit of knowledge, actually, the old Pac-Man.
Yeah. Gaming geeks are quite cool these days. At least you are if you're my generation. I think it's quite cool to be a gaming geek and have that sort of knowledge.
One Man Riot says, if Nick and Z were Star Wars characters, Nick would be Han Solo and Z would be Jar Jar Binks or Chewbacca. I'd take Chewbacca over that, actually.
I'd go with Chewie.
Yeah, definitely. I'll take Chewie. That's fine.
Everybody hates Jar Jar. He's just
he's just irritating. Maybe that's why he said I'd be Jar Jar.
That's what Beck would say you were, I think.
Yeah,
only live chats. Okay. I was another super chat in. Dave Rowland, £2 super chat. Oh God, look, this happy dance thing has to end.
It's yes.
I am not a dancing monkey. Dave. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm just.
That's it.
What's this face? It's not gonna dance. If Andrew was here, she'd force me to do it. You know what it's like. Tell you what, I'll just spin on my chair for you.
Oh well, now you've started a new thing. The spin.
There you go, Dave. You'll have to be happy with that. Okay. I still gave in, didn't I? What am I like? Bloody useless.
Still a spin.
Okay. Sorry, just reading.
Yeah.
Talking about using Rails and you need a lot of room. The video I did today, which will be uploaded for tomorrow, I did a bit of a look around this office and shared what I was up to. And I went in Andrea's and you'll see how she's got it set up. And Rails do take up an awful lot of space. I put one sort of ceiling height in her office so it's off the ground and out of the way. That's absolutely packed. And there's not actually much stock on it, really. It's things like grow bags and kids onesie suits, you know, those baby ones, and they're so padded that they take up so much space. So
I suppose
it's a constant battle.
Yeah, I suppose with any of this stuff, whether it's your inventory, whether it's listing, whether it's like photographing, or whether it's like cleaning or testing, I think the best advice that I think I've ever like had or would give anyone would be just to break it down into manageable chunks, just like they used to tell you at school when it was time to revise for your exams. Break it down into small chunks, and because in a way, any task that you have is going to become easier when it's broken down into a small chunk, as opposed to trying to cope with it as like one, in one go. So for example, if you do have like a mountain of electrical items that need testing, rather than saying to yourself, okay, I've now got 30 VCRs or 30 of these to sit down and play the same wedding VHS tape that you also got as part of one of the bundles, and watching some random people getting married 30 times over. Just say, okay, I'm not going to do all 30, maybe I'll do 5 or 10, and then focus on something else and do a small chunk of that, because I think that's the only way you can tackle these things. I mean, that's how I approached the craft stuff, and now it's in a manageable state where now I know all I've got are embossing folders and dies to deal with, and again, I'm going to deal with those on a
yeah. It's good advice, and in a small way, that's what that list of 10 things that I had to get done did for me. Because when I look at this, sometimes I just think, oh, sod it, I'm just going to do some FBA because I can cope with that. But having that list, that was my focus, and I just systematically worked through it, and then you get that reward at the end of it as well. And as we've said, I know we've covered this before, but when I'm doing regular small stuff, the little lots of 10 works because you get that motivation at the end of the 10. It's like at the end of this 10, I can go and have a cup of tea and go and have a chat with the wife or whatever it is. You get these little breaks at the end as well, and then you're motivated to start again. Whereas if you just say, today I'm just going to list full stop, there's no beginning, there's no end. It's like, it's too much.
And it's not quantifiable, I suppose. It's about, I suppose you have to get down to the numbers in the end, don't you? I think, like you said, you set yourself. You didn't say to yourself, all right, I'm just going to deal with all my bulky items, because then firstly you wouldn't know how many you've got, and you'd be like, oh, actually
that thought scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, I think I'll move past that. Whereas if you said 10 bulky items, you gave yourself, and you gave yourself like a time frame to do it in, and it just makes sense. And I know this stuff sounds kind of cringy, because we used to hear this all the time when we used to get like training, like sales training, when I used to work at Dixon's and when I used to work at Harrods. Even they'd hire people to come in and tell you how to set targets and how to approach your sales targets.
Yeah.
So it was all about smart objectives and this, that, the other. But unfortunately, grudgingly, I have to admit that those things are helpful.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
It's a way of coping. It's a way of not getting overwhelmed. It's a way of breaking it down into things that you can achieve quite easily. There's still a bit of a challenge in there, doing 10 or 20 or whatever your batch is, but that's achievable and it doesn't scare you, so you don't start.
And when you've done it, like you said, you have that lovely feeling of, why was I procrastinating so much? Why did I leave that sat there for so long? It's completely linked.
Going back into the chat, Lonnie reckons Nick is Obi-Wan and Z is Han Solo.
Man, yeah, I've noticed there's quite a few people moving around. Who's who?
And then it goes on. Talking about dancing monkeys again. Oh, Darren says, what's that in there? I was at the London Movie and Comic-Con, and you had cosplayers dressed up as Pac-Man and the ghosts chasing each other about. That would be amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Wow. I would pay good money to be a ghost being chased by Pac-Man, I tell you.
Yeah, that is actually really cool. A lot of people shouting dance.
I'm a spinning monkey now. Deary me. Right. Okay, let's see if we've got any more questions. If you do have any questions, it doesn't really have to be on the topic. Just drop them in. If you've got questions or comments on our topic, even better. What's the average number of items you sell a week, and is there an average price? Mine varies so much from week to week and goes up a lot in fourth quarter. So no, I don't even know what the numbers are, to be honest. My average price is probably quite low compared to a lot of people. I do sell a fair amount of low value stuff.
Michael Keenan has a question. Do you want to do eBay reselling until you retire, or would you rather use the money to invest in other companies' ventures? This actually touches upon something that me and Nick chatted about earlier today, that if you were to find a more efficient, a better way, or if you were able to find or do a better way of earning income, how would you be able to? Would you still want to continue reselling, or would you just drop it and move on? From my perspective,
did my response to that surprise you earlier?
A little bit. I thought you'd just carry on as well, do it anyway. I thought you just add it on to, if you found another way of earning money, I thought you'd just be like, I'll do that and I'll carry on doing this somehow.
If I had several ideas in my head, everyone kind of knows this, and if one of those really took off and became what I wanted it to be, I wouldn't have time for this, and I'd gladly move on. I'm not married to this. I'm not that obsessed that I could never stop selling tat. I think there'd always be an element of it somewhere in the background, but yeah, I mean, I've always just kind of gone with the flow and followed what I'm into. But don't get me wrong, I passionately love doing this, but yeah, I don't think it would stop me from moving on and pursuing an avenue if I could find something that really took off.
I think it really does depend on how your mind works and what kind of focus you have, because like you said, if you do have ideas and if you do have ideas of other businesses or other ways of earning income and they suddenly did take off and take up all your time, you'd be silly to not devote your focus to something that's going to earn you like much more money. But at the same time, you do see people week in, week out at boot sales that are clearly happy to be out there sourcing and hunting for stock like they probably have been for years, because it suits them and it's providing them an income and it suits their lifestyle. I think there is that lifestyle attraction, isn't there, where you kind of can sustain yourself doing reselling. But if you do have ideas and like you said and they are successful, you'd have to really think hard about not giving them the proper amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, chances are this is what I will do for the rest of my working life. but I'm not limiting myself saying that this is definitely me until, you know, I'm 65, 70, whatever it is these days. But yeah, we shall see. Who knows? I do have a little kind of passion project on the go that I've never shared with anybody that probably will never make me money, but I do want to get it started. I might share that one day. Hitman UK says, I opened my shop yesterday all because of watching the success of Nick, Z, and Ben. Wow. Do you mean an eBay shop or a real bricks and mortar shop? Let us know.
And if you are doing it, I hope you're doing better than I am at the moment. This week, anyway. Right. Pete's Retro Collectible says, I sold 200 items to one guy. Wow. For £266. Average price £1.33. Still made £109. That reminds me of your Pog sale. Was it Pogs or those Pokemon WAPs or whatever they're called? Or
yeah, I remember sat here one evening. There's very little money in these Pokemon WAPs. To be honest, I wouldn't bother people, but I have a listing set up where you can pick and choose all the ones you want off 2 or 3 different listings. And I sat with Andrew on the sofa one night, and my phone just was ching, 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 and it just didn't stop. And some guy bought, I don't know, 20 odd or whatever, £1 each, and from that one sale, I got as much money as I'd spent on like 300 of the bloody things. So now that listing just sits there, and it's been pure profit for the last year or so, but it's really slow. Yeah. Somebody asked them, what was the strangest place we've had an eBay sale notification? Have you had any strange ones?
A strange place? Not really. I mean, out and about, I suppose, but yeah. I don't go anywhere strange, really. Like supermarkets and things. I don't know. Like, it's not particularly strange. I don't go to. You'd have to go to a strange place, wouldn't you?
I've had a couple at that moment when you're buying a job or a load of stuff off somebody at car boot sale, and your phone just goes ching, and you just ignore it. I've also had it when you're like sat in a really quiet waiting room, like at the doctor's, and your phone volume's on max, and it goes cha-ching, and everyone just like stares at you.
There's a question here from Andrew Keane, who asks, how do you stay motivated going to car boots? I found I've lost the buzz as too many resellers about. Nick, go for it. You've been going for many years.
I don't have to get motivated for that. That's just there. I just enjoy that.
Yeah. And
before I was ever making money out of car boot sales, I was going and had the same buzz then.
Completely.
So yeah. It's the thrill of the game for me. It's like a big game, and it's like I've got to get there first before all these other players in this game. And that's the motivation to get me out of bed, is I know so-and-so and what's his face and that annoying woman and so-and-so will all be there. So I've got to get down there now.
I mean, my earliest memories of car boots were when I think I was 13, 14-ish, because my parents had just bought me an Amiga 1200, and, you know, we couldn't afford the game. So at that time, piracy was rife, especially on floppy disk format. And I remember being so excited every weekend, getting up at silly o'clock, because my mum and dad have always been to car boots as well, you know, literally for clothes, furniture, everything. You know, my mum's a tiny lady, but sometimes you'd see her like carrying the most giant items, you know, out of boot sales. And I used to go there to look for this Amiga guy that used to sell £1 a disc for all these dodgy games, and that was like first. So it's always been something I've done, and ever since we've just been going pretty much every weekend from, you know, for as long as I can remember. So it's so it's more of a habit in that sense.
I remember I didn't go the Amiga route. I had an Atari ST.
All right.
Copied games were like commodity at school. In my maths class, there was this one guy who was like a dealer, and we would pass notes around. I need Xenon 2. How much is Xenon 2? And, you know, and you'd get a disc come back if you sent him a couple of quid through the class and all of
I actually, that reminds me of a horrible experience. I remember when Theme Park came out, and it was like 35 quid for a schoolboy. That's a big deal. And there was a kid at school that had it, and he was like really milking the fact that he had Theme Park, and he knew I wanted it. And I was like, "Oh, can you make me a copy? Can you?" I was badgering him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll make you a copy." And unfortunately, this was a kid that maybe I wasn't so nice to normally, so I got my comeuppance, and I gave this guy 2 quid or whatever it was for this game, and to make me a copy. And he copied the game for me. Apparently, I got it home, put the disc in, and he had left me some nasty message. So
Oh, wow.
instead of a game, it was a nasty message, which I thoroughly deserved because I wasn't nice to this guy. So he got his comeuppance. I remember that fondly, actually.
Wow. Fair play to the guy. That's quite
Yeah, he got his come up, and he got my 2 quid, and I was like, damn it. Wow, it's funny how these things come out, actually.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that for years. Yeah.
Excellent story. Question for Nick and Z. Where is the furthest you travelled for an item? I drove 5 hours to get 21 designer dresses for £200. I know what mine is. We took. I've shared this before, actually. We had a camper van at the time, and we drove to, I think it was Dudley, which up in the West Midlands, to pick up a job lot of Lego. Bought someone's entire collection that they've been collecting for decades, probably, and we spent £1,000 on it and filled up a camper van. Have you travelled far and wide for any of your pickups yet?
Oh, I've travelled quite far for pickups. Coffee machines, coffee grinders. I don't mind traveling. I really don't. I mean, even like down south, even my weekly boot sale was about an hour away. So I'm happy to do an hour each way just to go to a weekly boot sale. So, driving a few hours. I mean, I've driven to when I've lived down south, I've driven to the Midlands and whatnot. So, it's you go as far as you need to if the deal's worth it. Once you work out your costs and everything.
Simon asks, have you had problems with sending to Argos? My Hermes delivered and got signature from staff there, but customer has not got the item and Argos don't know where it is. Claim put into Hermes. The only issue I've had with Argos is the customer not bothering to go and get it, and it getting sent back to me. But I've not had that issue. But yeah, you should be covered by Hermes if it's lost. But then if they've signed for it, it's Argos's issue, isn't it? I would imagine if you get onto eBay about that eBay will refund you, because eBay and Argos are working together, aren't they, to provide a place for someone to pick it up. So if they've lost it somewhere between the two of them, eBay needs to give you the money back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would just think so, but I've luckily not had many issues with the Argos.
Steve Green says, I must be young. First game I played was Duck Hunt. I loved that on the NES with a little dog pops up. I never had an NES. I used to play on other people's ones. I never had an Atari 2600.
The Amiga came after the NES, though. The Amiga I had anyway. I had the 1200. So
yeah. So I lived that long way around. Yeah.
NES was way before.
That's like 85, 83.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think all I ever played on the NES was Teenage Turtles and tennis with my cousin. That was it.
I played hours of the first Mario on that. That was great. When you could smash the blocks and you could run along the top row of blocks. Did you ever do that and get through to the warp zones? That's a whole other show.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that, running across.
Okay. I've just realised we've been going over an hour. I had no clue. Let me just see.
I should just put it out there. Electronic Firing Squad says Z was a schoolyard bully. I'm taking down my Z right now. It wasn't necessarily bullying. This guy got as good as he gave. Put it that way. It was reciprocal. It was to and fro. So
there wasn't any love lost between you.
No. It wasn't. Yeah.
Andrew says, I get frustrated seeing other resellers getting the bargains. I see them carrying off rare consoles and think, why did I get up early just to watch them picking it up before me? It happens. You can't avoid it. We've all seen someone picking up, you know, the score of the year. But if you keep going and you keep putting yourself in as front of as many stalls as you can, that's going to be you at some point.
It's about mindset. I mean, I think a lot of what we've talked about today has been about mindset, hasn't it? You know, motivation and even keeping processes in place. It's down to your mindset and your discipline. And the same thing applies to when you're out at a boot sale and you feel that people are getting things. It's funny how your eyes are always drawn to that as well. It always seems to happen. It's almost as if the universe is messing with you, because you do feel like, why did I have to see that? Of all the things I could have seen people pick up, why did I have to see that? Or why did that transaction have to take place literally seconds as I was getting to this store? But the thing is, you mustn't dwell on that, because if you do, it will upset you. There's no way around it. I think
you have to look at it a certain way. Really train your mind to say, okay, what's that telling me? It's telling me this stuff is out there. You know what I mean? Try and spin it and say, okay, that guy proves to me that an N64 bundle still exists in the wild. And you've just got to flip it on its head and say, that's going to motivate me to get here half an hour earlier, or to, I don't know, travel to an extra boot sale every Sunday, or whatever it is. Just take a little bit of motivation from it. And eventually you'll be the guy cutting it off. And that same dealer will look at you with that look of, no.
Yeah,
it's frustrating. I've been there so many times. You know, when you get to a boot sale, and sometimes when you get let in, it's like they open the pens and everyone just runs. And you think, okay, I know they're dealers in sort of stuff I like. They're going down that aisle. I'm going to choose this aisle. And then you see them later with hands full of stuff. And it's like, how did they pick the right bloody aisle?
Yeah.
But you have to just stay positive and just, I don't know, use it to motivate you to go harder, faster, earlier.
Yeah, definitely. It's all of those things, really. You do have to get there, you know, as quickly as you can, and you do also, once you're there, you've got to make it count. And it won't always work out for you, but just, you know, you can't dwell on it. You just have to focus on what you're doing.
And none of us have a divine right to get the good stuff. It's a free-for-all, and you know, you cannot win them all. And the sooner you accept that, then you can deal with it a bit easier, I think.
Yeah. And Lucy T's just commented, as Ben Fitzpatrick said in his last video, you don't know how much they paid for it. So, you know, it's very easy to assume when you see someone else, oh, they probably only paid £1 or something for all of it. But, you know, you don't know how much they've paid. But like I said, you mustn't dwell on it, because I think if you dwell on it, you will only feel down, because it's a hard thing to square away. You know, you just move on. You just have to, in the moment, it's done. Like you said, take the positive from it, which is that the stuff's still there. It's just you didn't get it, but then move on and
take the positives. The stuff's there. Take a little bit of motivation from it if you can. But yeah, if it helps, convince yourself that all the consoles were broken, he overpaid, and he's not going to make any money. If it makes you feel better.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, well, we are now at 7:15.
Yep.
So I guess we'll wrap this one up.
Yeah, definitely. 160 plus people in the chat. So, you know, really thank you, everyone. It's so amazing to have so many people watching.
Yeah, lovely to see everyone in. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for the super chats. Always blows my mind. And we will be back. Well, you guys will be back on Friday for your show.
Yep.
And then I'll be back with Andrea on Sunday. We're still on our kind of self-imposed buying ban, so we may do another little sales roundup or something like that, but don't expect a haul on Sunday, because we're still trying to clear some of this crap. But yeah, thanks for joining us. As you say, we're still on 160 odd viewers. If you enjoy these chats, give us a thumbs up. Really appreciate that. And we'll see you soon. Thanks, Z.
Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.